The young man kicking in the front door of a famous baseball star's home is part of the new BLING ring, allegedly responsible for a slew of burglaries at celebrity homes, including Rihanna's.
A $9,000 Rolex stolen from Keanu Reeves' LA home has turned up overseas.
Yeah, it appears the actor is the latest victim of a South American crime tourism ring targeting SoCal celebs.
For decades, Hollywood celebs have mostly been terrorized by these gangs in Los Angeles. The 6 Deuce Brims, the Rollin 60s Harlem Crips, and the infamous BLING gang.
This morning, gang member roundup. 26 alleged gang members indicted following a series of crimes in the Atlanta area targeting high-profile celebrities like Mariah Carey, Atlanta Falcons player Calvin Ridley, and Real Housewives star Marlo Hampton.
On the 9th of May 2018, Rihanna's home was burglarized, and a few years later, on the 25th of June 2025, Brad Pitt's home was also broken into while he was out of the country promoting his new film, F1.
Brad Pitt is the latest celebrity to be hit by burglars.
Police say thieves broke into his Los Feliz home last night.
Then there's Nicki Minaj, whose house was not only broken into, but vandalized and completely trashed. For all these cases, one or more of these gangs were involved, and the one gang among them that is perhaps most notorious is the 6 Deuce Brims. Meet the 6 Deuce Brims. The 6 Deuce Brims, also known as the Harvard Park Brims, are one of the most feared street gangs in Los Angeles, with influence stretching as far as New York City. But their rise can be traced back to 1993 on Rikers Island, where the 59 Brims, sometimes called Primetime, were formed by Omar Porty, also known as OG Mac. From the very start, they set up a strict hierarchy. The leaders in prison, called the prison lineup, give orders to those on the streets, known as the street lineup. Each member has a rank from Godfather at the top down to 1-star general, and everyone knows exactly where they stand. And in Los Angeles, the Harvard Park Brims go back even further. They existed before many of the famous Bloods and Crips formations, and their neighborhood is surrounded on all 4 sides by rival Crip gangs. Because of this, they had to become tough and disciplined just to survive, and the 6 Deuce clique, based on 62nd Street, quickly rose to prominence, earning a reputation for ruthlessness and precision. Now take a pause, let's look at some of their key members. At the very top was Mills, the Godfather. From 2012 until his arrest in 2020, Mills held the highest rank. He controlled operations, moved crack coke, and made sure no act of violence happened without accountability. Yet even he knew the risks, often criticizing members for getting sloppy, like when some were caught on camera after a shooting. Beside him was Noni, the Godmother. She was clever and dangerous, running robbery setups through social media. By posting fake ads for relations, she lured victims into her apartment building where Brims lay in wait to rob them at gunpoint. Her schemes showed how the gang used not just guns, but also manipulation to make money. But loyalty always came first, and when Noni broke the rules, the punishment was harsh. She was slashed in the face in an attack organized by her own people. While Noni was falling, Show-Off was rising, the Bronx's most feared name. He earned respect not with words but through day-to-day work, robberies, stabbings, and ruthless orders. One night outside Glenroy's bar, he and Law brutally stabbed a rival. Another time, he set up a robbery of a man carrying $10,000. This kind of violence was more than personal. It was business, a way to keep the Brims' name feared in every corner. Step by step, these acts pushed him higher, until he eventually became Godfather for the Bronx after the murder of 40. And then came Handsome, whose story carried a different weight. In 2020, during a flight on Webster Avenue, he fired a gun to protect a fellow Brim, but the shot went wrong, striking and killing Jason Paris, his own gang brother. By 2023, he pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy, a tragic reminder that in a gang built on violence, even loyalty could cost a life. They weren't just names on a lineup. Each member's story showed how far the Brims were willing to go for money, power, and fear. But knowing the players is only half the story. Now it's time to see how the 6 Deuce Brims actually operated and how they kept money flowing. So, who did they target and how did they pull it off? They used both street smarts and technology, watching social media, running surveillance, and picking the right time. Then, when everything lined up, they moved fast. From watching homes to quick in-and-out strikes, the 6 Deuce Brims turned burglary into a dangerous but well-planned routine. In Los Angeles, for example, their entire approach revolved around precision. Rather than storming into homes recklessly, they relied on a strategy they called flocking. This meant that instead of standing out, they deliberately blended in, Crews would often drive into wealthy neighborhoods in expensive cars, and because they dressed as if they belonged there, nobody thought twice about their presence. At the same time, they were constantly monitoring celebrity social media pages, watching for the exact moment when someone posted about a trip or a concert. And once they knew the coast was clear, that's when they made their move.
Police say the crew of burglars would monitor celebrity social media. When they posted that they were traveling or at an event, that's when the burglars would strike. Police say they hit Rihanna's house here in Hollywood last week when she was out of the country.
And the burglaries themselves were never meant to last long. They were quick, surgical strikes, usually no more than 3 minutes inside the house. They moved with purpose, heading straight for the master bedroom where the valuables almost always were. Cash, jewelry, firearms, those were the primary targets. And because they repeated this process over and over, their daily goal was staggering: $10,000 a day. Yet the money wasn't just for flashy cars or designer clothes. Instead, it flowed right back into the gang, funding their activities, paying for bail, and creating a safety net for any member who got caught. But while the Los Angeles Brims were running disciplined burglary rings, the New York branch, the 59 Brims, were operating in an entirely different way. Their world was more chaotic and yet equally structured. On one hand, they were knee-deep in street-level violence, murder, attempted murder, and brutal assaults that kept their reputation alive. On the other hand, they were deeply involved in fraud, identity theft, bad checks, credit card scams, and bank fraud that brought in steady streams of money. And unlike their West Coast counterparts, discipline here was often enforced in the most brutal ways imaginable. If a member stepped out of line, it wasn't just a warning. Violations could mean savage beatings, and in some cases, even death. Now, the real story comes alive when you see who they targeted. Their operations weren't just against ordinary homeowners. They struck at some of the biggest names in music, sports, and film, each case adding another layer to the gang's boldness. According to attorney Daniel Horowitz, these robbers weren't primarily motivated by money, but the fame of the celebrities.
They weren't primarily motivated by money. They were almost taking pieces of the fame of the people whose houses they entered.
Take Rihanna, for example. In 2018, her Hollywood Hills home was burglarized in May 2018, leaving behind extensive damage. Even though the exact items stolen weren't listed, the gang's reputation for grabbing cash, jewelry, and firearms makes clear what their focus was. Her case showed how brazen they had become, breaking into one of the world's most famous pop stars' home. Then there was Yasiel Puig, the Dodger star outfielder who we mentioned earlier suffered not once but 4 separate break-ins. Twice his home was hit while he was literally on the field playing. Surveillance cameras even caught burglars dragging a safe down his stairs, causing thousands in damage. That detail alone underscored just how relentless and fearless the crew had become.
Top story on KCAL 9 News at noon. It's a double loss for Dodger star Yasiel Puig. While he was playing in the World Series, a thief was breaking into his home in Encino.
Just days later, Robert Woods, wide receiver for the Rams, had his Woodland Hills home hit during a game. What made this case especially important was that a firearm stolen from his home was later recovered, leading police directly to a wider investigation that exposed the gang's entire burglary ring. Even Christina Milian wasn't spared. While the specifics of her burglary remained limited, she was clearly on the gang's target list, reminding us that the Brims weren't limiting themselves to athletes. They were after anyone with wealth and status. And the list didn't stop there. LeBron James, Matt Damon, and Viola Davis were also found on the gang's hit list. None of their homes were ultimately hit, but their presence on that list spoke volumes. In LeBron's case, he responded by ramping up his security, reportedly hiring 10 armed guards, a dramatic illustration of the fear and disruption these burglaries caused. Now, when you step back and look at the Brims' operations, the picture is clear. They blended organization with audacity, leaving celebrities shaken and scrambling to keep up. Yet the Brims were only one piece of Los Angeles' wider gang landscape. Now, while they were mastering the art of high-end burglaries, another crew was carving out its own identity in the city's streets. That crew was the Rollin 30s Harlem CRIPS. The Rollin 30s Harlem CRIPS. The gang first emerged in the 1970s under the name Harlem Godfathers. Then, as time went on, they became the Rollin 30s Harlem Crips and grew into a strong force in South Los Angeles. By the late 1980s, they had already spread outside California, reaching New York City and even Belize. But what made them different was their size and structure. They had between 700 and 1,000 members, and they worked through cliques like the Avenues, Denker Park, and 39th Street. Also, members had special names. Men were called DMB, or Dirt Money Boys, and women were called DMG, Dirt Money Girls. Because of this, the gang stayed organized and could adjust whenever police pressure or rival gangs tried to break them down. And with their structure came money. Like many Los Angeles gangs, the Rollin 30s earned from many crimes. For example, in 1997, reports said their drug trade made up to $4,000 a day. But drugs were not their only source, as they also dealt in weapons, robbery, extortion, and prostitution. Method. Then they became known for a special burglary method called flocking. Just like the Brims, they used this to target wealthy homes. Crews would often drive nice cars and wear clothes that made them look like they belonged in rich neighborhoods. At the same time, they watched celebrities who display their wealth on social media to know when houses are empty.
And shootings. The members allegedly targeting people who displayed their wealth on social media.
When the time was right, their moves were quick. Break-ins often lasted only a few minutes, and usually they went straight to the master bedroom looking for cash, jewelry, luxury watches, handbags, or guns. These items could then be kept, traded on the streets, or sold for fast cash. But the money was not only for themselves. The Rollin 30s used it to support the gang, buying drugs, paying for lawyers, helping with bail, and getting more weapons. So in the end, their crimes created a cycle. Crime brought money, money kept the gang alive, and survival gave them a stronger name, which led back to more crime. With their methods in place, the impact of the Rollin 30s Harlem Crips became painfully clear when you look at the actual victims. Their flocking operations weren't abstract crimes on paper. They were real, high-stakes invasions into the homes of some of the most famous figures in music, film, and sports. Each case illustrates not just the gang's precision, but also the boldness and audacity with which they operated. Take Nicki Minaj, for instance. In January 2017, her Los Angeles home was not only burglarized but totally trashed, furniture destroyed, clothing cut up, and $200,000 in jewelry stolen. According to Clever News, while Nicki was posting herself on Instagram, her home was robbed.
As Nicki was posting a selfie with Drake to Instagram, her Beverly Hills home was ransacked by thieves.
Meanwhile, Alanis Morissette fell victim in the same month. Her Brentwood home yielded roughly $2 million in jewelry and valuables taken from a safe, one of the costliest celebrity robberies in recent memory. The scale of this heist demonstrated how methodical the gang had become, focusing on high-value targets with meticulous timing.
You encountered some crime when you first moved to Los Angeles, right?
Yes, I was here for all of 5 minutes, and I was followed home and held up at gunpoint.
In another 2017 incident, Emmy Rossum had $150,000 in jewelry stolen from her Beverly Glen home. The actress even publicly thanked the police, giving a rare glimpse into the victim's perspective and highlighting the human side of these high-profile crimes.
Well, another celebrity home is hit by burglars. This time, it's TV actress Emmy Rossum.
And police say the suspects got away with a fortune.
Sports figures weren't spared either. Nick Young, during NBA All-Star Weekend, had nearly $500,000 in cash and jewelry stolen from his Tarzana home, including his entire safe. The timing showed that the gang paid attention to public schedules, choosing moments when targets were away. Similarly, Derek Fisher lost $300,000 in jewelry, possibly including all 5 of his Lakers championship rings. A theft that carried not just financial loss but symbolic weight, stripping away a piece of sports history.
Nicky Young, his house got robbed again in LA. Whew, this is crazy, and LA is crazy.
Together, these cases underline the calculated audacity of the Rollin 30s Harlem Crips, showing that their operations were as much about reputation and intimidation as they were about profits. While the Rollin 30s Harlem Crips operated with street-level power, discipline, and a clear financial and reputational agenda, not all celebrity crimes came from organized gangs. In fact, some of the most infamous thefts were carried out by an entirely different type of group, one defined less by territorial control and more by obsession, privilege, and a fascination with fame. And this group was called the Bling Ring. The Bling Ring Group. The Bling Ring was a group of 7 fame-obsessed teenagers in Los Angeles who broke into the homes of celebrities between 2008 and 2009, stealing over $3 million in designer goods, jewelry, and cash from stars like Paris Hilton and Orlando Bloom. They were also known as the Hollywood Hills Burglar Bunch. What made them different was why they did it. They weren't desperate for money, they were obsessed with celebrities. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, and fancy gadgets weren't just things to steal, they were a way to live like the stars. One member, Rachel Lee, even called their crimes going shopping, showing how casual they treated serious theft. At the same time, the group felt a mix of envy and anger toward their victims. They thought celebrities had way more than they needed. Many of them came from wealthy families and some struggled with drugs. The mix of desire, jealousy, and privilege drove them to steal. Methods. The Bling Ring didn't plan like street gangs, but they were smart about when and how they struck. They watched celebrity social media and news to see when the stars would be away from home. Once they knew a house was empty, they would go in quietly, often climbing over fences or breaking in through doors and windows. Inside, they looked for expensive jewelry, cash, designer clothes, and other luxury items. They would take what they could carry quickly, often leaving a mess behind. Unlike gangs, their main goal wasn't to fund an organization or pay bail. They wanted the luxury lifestyle for themselves. And the members were careful but not violent. Their crimes were bold and flashy, driven by celebrity obsession and greed, rather than fear or survival. With their methods clear, the true impact of the Bling Ring comes to life when you look at the celebrities they targeted. Their crimes weren't about gangs, power, or survival. They were about obsession, fashion, and the thrill of taking from the rich and famous. Each home they broke into tells a story of planning, audacity, and sometimes shocking disrespect. Paris Hilton was their first major target. They chose her because they thought she might leave doors unlocked. Her home was hit at least 5 times. At first, Rachel Lee and Nick Prugo went in alone, finding keys or unlocked doors. Later, Roy Lopez Jr. cleaned the house out, stealing nearly $2 million in designer items, heirloom jewelry, Birkin bags, expensive bras, and even nude photos from an open safe. Prugo also claimed they snorted coke found in the house, though Hilton's team denied it. Paris even appeared in Sofia Coppola's film about the gang, letting them shoot in her actual home. Lindsay Lohan was next. Lee saw her as a fashion icon and a prize target. On August 23, 2009, her Hollywood Hills home was robbed, with $130,000 in clothes and jewelry taken. Crucially, surveillance footage from this burglary, along with Audrina Patridge's, helped police track and identify the Bling Ring members. Audrina Patridge had her home hit on Oscar night, February 22, 2009. Nick Prugo and Rachel Lee were caught on her surveillance cameras, and Patridge herself uploaded the footage, directly aiding the police. The thieves stole around $43,000, including her great-grandmother's jewelry, a laptop, and her passport. Patridge later described it as the most terrified I have ever been. The group also targeted actors Brian Austin Green and Megan Fox. Lee reportedly wanted Megan Fox's clothes, and in August 2009, they stole Brian Austin Green's Sig Sauer 380 handgun, which was later found with associate Johnny Ajar. This marked a shift in their crimes, moving beyond fashion and cash into more dangerous territory. Finally, Rachel Bilson was burglarized up to 6 times between April and May 2009. They took between $130,000 and $300,000 in jewelry, clothing, and personal items, including her mother's engagement ring. Prugo even boasted that Lee felt comfortable enough to use Bilson's bathroom, a small but telling detail of their audacity.
You were the first person I read that got hit by the Bling Ring. Wasn't that Calabasas kids?
You know what? I think they were.
Yeah,
they were.
The Bling Ring showed that even a small group of teenagers could cause big problems for celebrities, but over time the threat did not stop. In fact, it changed and got stronger. What began with obsessed teens turned into gangs and crews using smarter methods and new technology, spreading beyond Los Angeles to other cities. Other gangs robbing celebrities. For example, in the Atlanta area between 2018 and 2022, a gang called Drug Rich carried out a long series of crimes. They robbed homes, kidnapped people, and even used guns. They also watched social media and public posts. And when Mariah Carey posted vacation pictures, the gang saw it as a chance to strike. Similarly, athletes and stars like Calvin Ridley and Marlo Hampton were targeted because they showed off expensive clothes, handbags, and jewelry online. By August 2022, 26 gang members were charged, showing how serious these crimes had become.
This morning, gang member roundup. 26 alleged gang members indicted following a series of crimes in the Atlanta area targeting high-profile celebrities like Mariah Carey, Atlanta Falcons player Calvin Ridley, and Real Housewives star Marlo Hampton.
At the same time in Los Angeles, a new generation of younger gang members emerged in 2024 and 2025. Teenagers, some only 16 or 17, were arrested for trying to break into celebrity homes. These groups used fences, broken windows, hidden cameras, and even Wi-Fi jammers to get past alarms. They also carefully watched social media and schedules to know when the stars were away. Some other high-profile victims include Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, Olivier Giroud, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves, for example, had his home targeted multiple times, and thieves stole items like a luxury watch and a firearm. This shows how even the most careful people can be at risk.
A $9,000 Rolex stolen from Keanu Reeves' LA home has turned up overseas.
Yeah, it appears the actor is the latest victim of a South American crime tourism ring targeting SoCal celebs.
And now here's the thing. Over the years, from the Brims to the ROLLIN 30s, the BLING ring, and now today's tech-driven gangs, one thing stays the same. Celebrities remain prime targets. Criminals adapt, methods evolve, but the danger never disappears. Fame and wealth bring risk, and often, the scars left behind go deeper than stolen cash or jewelry. Some of these home invasions have unfolded while children were inside.